Hey guys, Shep up here, the Kicking Turtle, and today I played a lot of Age of Empires 2. I have recorded 25 games, and I've probably played quite a few more, like maybe like 5 or 8 more games that I haven't recorded. But the general gist is, of the 25 games I recorded, 15 of them are wins and 10 of them are losses, which is pretty good. It actually kind of, shows in my ELO. So for example, my ELO rating went from 948 to 1065. 47% win rate to 49% win rate. That 2% is a lot, baby. Trust me, it's a lot compared to the very first episode where I went from like 36%. So anyways, how did this happen and why did this happen? I have no idea. I'm working on this as I go. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at. And yeah, buckle up, buckaroo. Okay, so not much has changed from the last video. I'm still doing the Archer Flush build strategy, which is just, 6 villagers on food, next 4 on wood, the rest on food, and you kind of get the gist. So that's what's been kind of getting me in the early game from the first 10 minutes, I try to build up to this Archer rush, and so far it's been working out pretty well. I find that I'm able to lock down a lot of specific points of the map, and one key thing that I'm doing that I think is contributing to a lot of my wins is I'm securing specific parts of the map, that being gold farms that are far away from the town center, and just locking down his base. Now where things kind of fall apart is when scouts or skirmishers get thrown into the mix, because I find that I tend to lose or at least get pushed out, which isn't necessarily a loss in itself because I'm making him react to my build, which is good, and it can delay his castle time and I could get an advantage over there. But one thing that I've done to counter this is adding a spearman into my mix. I kind of do it late sometimes, I kind of do it when it's not necessary, but adding a spearman in to counter scouts is extremely helpful. As for the skirmishers, I just kind of hope that him going skirmishers delays his castle time, because 1 or 2 skirmishers isn't really that bad to deal with. It's when it's like 10 skirmishers that I struggle with, and I find that I end up losing in the late game because he already has elite skirmishers and their armor upgraded to the point where I can't really go archers and I have to go something else like samurai or something like that. I am thinking about mixing in some light cavalry or knights to counter it, and usually knights is actually the go-to because I find that he doesn't have any pikemen to counter my knights, and people rarely go monks. I have yet to see people go monks against me, but that's just kind of where I'm at my elo of 10 or 1000 to 1100. Another thing I find that I kind of struggle with is finding favorable fights when it comes to dealing with skirmishers. For example, there's this one game where I engage against fully upgraded skirmishers with crossbowmen, and I completely get wrecked, mainly because, well, my mangonel wasn't there, and I lost all my archers, and I eventually lost to knights because I lost the critical mass required, or not required, but necessary to deal with knights effectively, and I ended up losing that game fairly decisively, I'd say, after a castle went up. So one thing I should definitely keep in mind is, knowing that I can't just throw away army. I think I overvalue my economy a little too much. When there's a hint of raiding happening to me, I overreact or I underreact, and that's kind of where I'm trying to find the balance. Because there's also another game where I didn't even react to the raiding immediately, and I suffered the price for it, and I think I could show it here in this clip, or in the first clip you saw. It's just me not reacting properly to knights getting thrown at me, or more specifically knights and skirmishers. I lose my my crossbowmen to skirmishers, and the knights basically are there to clean up and raid, and they deal a significant blow to the point where I can't really rebuild that army, and every time I do, it's too little too late. And this other clip where I do a crossbowman push down the middle, and I'm doing okay. And there's another thing to consider there is, well, I guess I'll talk about that later, but the main thing is I lose my momentum because I can't produce, or excuse me, I produce 2 mangonels, but I end up losing them to 1 mangonel, and I also lose a chunk of archers. These are things like that I do fairly consistently against people who are willing to fight longer than normal, and I think that's just some things I'm gonna have to work on. Is just my micromanagement and decision making, because otherwise I'm going to be losing a lot more fights than I should be. Okay, with something I just found out on Reddit, you can turn on a timer in the game to make it easier to track where you're at in the game. So the game has a lot of stages like Castle Age, Dark Age, Feudal Age, etc. And I find that my Feudal Age to Castle Age time is kind of gray. I don't exactly know what I'm doing in that specific time period in the game, and having a timer might help me out with tracking that a little easier, knowing when my archer rushes are on point and knowing when I'm missing the mark, because previously I just been kind of like guesstimating it. And so yeah, hopefully this timer will help me out. Speaking of which, I should mention that I'm thinking about moving my strategy from a feudal age, or from the feudal age to the castle age. I'm thinking it should be more focused on town centers rather than siege, because I usually get a mangonel or battering ram depending on circumstances, instead of going for more long-term villagers, because apparently you want half villagers and half military, like 120 villagers is when you should be quote-unquote good. I still don't really know how to do that entirely, but having more than one town center will definitely help. So yeah, this episode was kind of short, mainly because I don't really know where to prioritize my focus. Like I said, it's kind of general, just booming and dealing with small counters that I'm finding that I'm struggling with in this ELO. Hopefully I can do better and get better games, because otherwise, oh no man, I don't think I'm going to hit my 1600 ELO mark by the end of December. But we'll see. That's still the goal. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you later.